will now be recorded.
All right. Have people in? Okay, so we should call the meeting to order. It is 12:01. And if we can call roll.
Okay. Roll call, Commissioner Batimana,
Here.
Commissioner Boyd,
Here.
Commissioner Guster. Here. Commissioner Carr. Here. Commissioner Pecora. Yeah, I think he's not on yet. Commissioner Swanberg.
Here.
And Commissioner Trancy, myself. We're 6 of us.
We should be good to go. So if everybody can look at the agenda and see if we're good to go on that, we can have a motion for approval.
So move.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Did you make the motion, Ruby? Oops.
No, it was Mike.
It was.
Before we, I just had a question about what the closed session is.
Can anybody answer that?
Sorry, thought I was unmuted. It's for the discussion of a case.
Who had made the motion for the?
Oh, sorry. Janelle has a question.
Well, I think our Madam Director just answered it. Apparently it's a case, so that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, anybody opposed? Okay, so the agenda is approved as published. And then now we can move on to the minutes for March 3rd. March 3rd. Oh, Rich has joined us.
Okay. Let's see. That would be at 12:04.
Mm-hmm. Any corrections to the minutes for March 3rd? Or none?
My phone is so small I can hardly see them, but I went over them earlier.
Your name's spelled right.
Do we have a motion for that March 3rd meeting?
I move that the
Guys
minutes.
have any corrections, I guess?
I move that the minutes of the March 3rd meeting be adopted.
Okay,
Doctor,
second, thank you.
that's good.
Everybody in favor of that, say aye.
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 Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, nobody. So the minutes for March 3rd approved. And then we move on to the March 9th minutes. February 9th. Okay. It's a pretty long one.
That was.
We have corrections or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay,
I second the motion.
all right. Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 All right, anybody opposed? No, okay, so the minutes for March 9th, it's approved. And then we move on to minutes for April 13th meeting. What's this, regular meeting.
Awesome.
That is a long one too.
Yeah, those were,
This is April 13th. All right, did everybody get a chance to review that? I know it's pretty quick, but just let me know. Then if we have any corrections or a motion.
This is Janelle. I move the approval of the April 13th minutes.
I
Thank you.
second the motion.
All right. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? No? So April 13 minutes approved. We move on to minutes of April 29th for the special meeting.
Is it 27th or 29th?
It's 29th here.
Okay.
oh, okay. Did it say 27 on the agenda here though, right?
Oh,
Okay, the agenda said 27, but it's the 29th.
29th.
Right.
Okay.
Just take note of that. Any corrections or comments or motion?
I move that the minutes of the April 29th meeting be accepted.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right. Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay, so the minutes for April 29th also approved. And then we can move on to the director's report.
Keep thinking I'm unmuted. This double mute is smarter than I am. So I think in the interest of time, I will go through these pretty quickly. So I met with Ruby and Rabbi Karp regarding Mike Malloy's attorney's fees. Ruby met with Mallory Merritt, the CFO / assistant city administrator. And she explained to Ruby that the reason that they had refused payment was because they viewed some of the entries on there as entries relating to a representation of Nicole Briviesco-Ledger in her lawsuit against the city and the former mayor regarding an unlawful removal. None of the entries related to that litigation, so I was a little unclear on why they believe that they did. Additionally, she explained to Ruby that the commission could vote to approve payment of the fee statement, absent those certain entries that she decided were relating to representation of Nicole. I sent her a letter last week asking for specific information on kind of how they've reached that conclusion and why this billing statement is being handled differently than every other billing statement. And I didn't get an answer on that. And I called her this morning to see if I could get some information, but I didn't get an answer. And I guess the issue is that there has been this kind of evolving rationale of why the billing statement wasn't paid. Initially, it was that the commission doesn't have authority to hire an attorney at all. And then it was the commission can't hire an attorney for this specific reason. And then it was that this reason was not a public reason and it was for personal interests. And then it was after their counsel gave those oral arguments to the Supreme Court back in December of 2020, it was that there are specific line items within the bill that aren't going to be approved and that the commission needs to approve them. And that's not how any other billing statement is handled. So I guess I will wait to see if I get a response or an explanation as to why there has been an attempt to kind of usurp the director's authority and really kind of direct the commission to do something that there's no authority within the ordinance for the commission to do. And why this is being treated differently than every other billing statement. I met with Rabbi Carp and I met regarding the letter that we talked about sending at the last meeting on policing reforms.
Commissioner Lacey, can we back up just for a moment, please? The payment to this attorney, did Mallory cite any policy or authority as the reason why they were refusing to make this payment, other than that they thought it was personal?
No.
Okay. You know, one of the things is the autonomy of this commission to operate, and that's something I don't think that we can sit by and just let pass. And I think we need to send a letter to the mayor and the city administrator requesting policy and the authority for which they are voicing or making their decision. Because if we are expected to be an organization that stands for civil rights, that stands for those that can't speak for themselves and have that autonomy, I see that as being a problem. And so I think we need to further address that in a more formal media.
Let me quote to you the text from the statement from Mallory that she wrote in an email that she copied to me that was written to Latrice. The invoice items that have been requested for removal appear to relate to private legal work, which is not public, which is not a public lawful use of funds. That seems to be, that premise is, I believe, a valid premise that we should not be paying for private legal work. But, the question for me becomes how is it determined that those particular items that have been requested for removal are indeed for private legal work. So I would suggest that we share this invoice with the attorney, Mr. Malloy, and ask him for clarification as to what these items were about. If they were private legal work for Nicole Briviesco, then I believe Mallory is correct if they weren't, but if they were for legitimate legal work for the commission, then they should be paid.
Well,
I think there are two.
Let
Okay.
me say something, Director Lacy.
Okay.
I take great concern when she say appear. And if there is not any solid evidence that they are, then they should be paid, Rabbi Cobb. And
I agree.
so,
That's why I say let's go to Malloy.
But let me finish. Let me finish, Ingrid.
Okay.
Why, if it appear, why do I need to make something clearer that just appear, and we all know that it's not. That's what bothers me. And I view it really, Rabbi Cobb, as another instance where, you know, we get questioned on everything that we do over here and on this commission. And that's where I mean, we got to draw the line somewhere. We either going to be about the business that we are supposed to be, or heck, we should just close the door. And I would like to say another word, but I won't do it. But I'm just getting kind of fed up with this kind of treatment. Thank you.
So Commissioner Augusta, what do you recommend that we do?
They need to tell us what cite the policy and authority for which she said appear. She said appear. Appear and is two different things to me.
And I would clarify that their attorney said that even if these were fees for representing Nicole as an individual, their attorney said that that's a permissible purpose. So these are not fees for representing Nicole, and every invoice that we process, I review it before it's approved. So that's already been done. So it's been reviewed. This is the only time that there has been an invoice where the finance department has attempted to block payment, and it raises substantial concerns, both as a continuation of the harassment that I've been experiencing at the hands of city staff, and as an attempt to kind of undermine my authority and silence the commission. If the commission's ability to take legal action is impeded by city staff at their whim, where does it end? The city, I mean, to say that it appears as though it's something, but you can't articulate why it appears that way or what supports that determination, I don't know how that can be viewed as a credible stance. Additionally, when you change the rationale for your reason, it looks extremely suspicious.
Well, I think I agree with what Rabbi Karp said, that maybe we can go to Malloy.
We don't have to go to Malloy because I've already reviewed it.
Then just going to be at a standstill.
Not at a standstill. The city administrator is her boss. The mayor is the mayor of this here city, and certainly provides or have some leverage in terms of what the city staff does. So I'm saying we need to elevate it, and if that doesn't work out, then we need to do a meeting a meeting, in-person meeting with them to determine what the problem is and settle this thing once and for all. Maybe she needs to come to our meeting and tell us why or why not.
I agree, because I think if you have looked at something to reach that determination, then that means that you should have something to produce when queried about it. And the fact that there is nothing other than I think it is, or it appears as though these were expenses that were incurred before the removal even took place. So, I mean, I just don't know how you would even argue that.
Well, then maybe, Latrice, no one who is sitting on this commission today was around when these expenses, was on a commission when these expenses took place or when this bill was submitted. So you're the one that approved it. Maybe and so therefore you approved it, and therefore you must know what these expenses were for. And I think maybe you need to clarify that with Mallory Merritt to show that it's not private legal expenses, but legitimate expenses.
Me approving it is that.
What? Well,
I mean, I would not have authority to approve something that is not a permissible purchase. So I couldn't buy myself, even if we had money in our budget, I couldn't buy myself a Ferrari because we have the money in our budget. I can only buy things that we have authority to do. And so this is the only invoice where this has become an issue. And I think that it is directly related to this being an invoice related to the commission challenging the city because the city was attempting to interfere with the commission's independence. And that should not ever be a thing that is permissible for them to come in and basically block the commission from advocating on behalf of the public, because the commission's independence is a benefit to the public because they want to do something that is impermissible. That should not be. That they have no authority to do that. And the fact that to allege that I have approved something that is an impermissible or unlawful expenditure is really an aspersion on my character. And it's saying that I've done something improper. And without anything to support it, I don't know how you can make that allegation. You should have something to support that prior to making such a statement.
Then perhaps we need to request the Mallory Merritt, on what grounds she makes that determination.
I've been asking that question for 2 years because it went from the commission not having the authority to hire an attorney at all. And now it's evolved into there are 3 or however many highlighted entries that are not for public purpose, and he needs to resubmit the billing statement. So I've been asking all along for some sort of documentation or citation to some sort of law or policy or practice where this has been determined, and I have not received that to date.
Well, I move that we elevate it and
is this a letter coming from the commission, or do you think that I should send a letter to the mayor and city administrator?
coming from the commission.
Okay.
So what are others?
What are we asking them to do?
To explain what they're basically the same letter that I sent to Mallory, I think, what they're using to reach this determination and why it hasn't been paid. I think, is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
Ms. Boyd, okay. Okay. Is anybody thinking that we shouldn't do that, or we're moving on? Okay, moving on.
It's logical.
Or don't you think we ought to vote on that so that it's
Well, it's not on the
official? What?
It's not on the agenda, so it's not it's not an official action item. It's just sending a letter to kind of reiterate the same thing, because it seems like it would be common sense if you are making that assertion, you should have something to support it.
Wouldn't it just be easier to have Malloy, just say this is not, for personal matters, and it's
He's already done that.
With Mallory or with the previous?
Both. I mean, to say that we are billing the public for personal legal expenses would be an ethics violation for both him and I. So I don't know if I sound a bit aggravated by that, but it is. It's you're accusing us of doing something that's unethical, and it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't be submitted if it were not a permissible public purpose. And there is nothing within it that says that it is not.
Well, again, I personally don't think anybody's accusing anybody. Well, what we're trying to do is just figure out what, and then
you all don't
if we have proof.
I'm not saying that you are accusing. I'm saying this is what the city is doing.
I know. Well, again, we're all trying to work together, and
I have a question. May I raise a question?
Go ahead.
There were two lawsuits that one that the city brought. One was into the. I wish I had the copies. I just went to look and I cannot find them at the moment. But there have been two lawsuits. There was first one that came back from the district court, and then there was the second one that went, I believe, all the way to the Supreme Court. In either of those cases, the city was carrying the lawsuit forward. Did Malloy's work did any of his work have anything to do with those two lawsuits?
No.
Then who was representing in those lawsuits when they went to the district court, for example? Who was representing Ledger?
Malloy represented her.
Okay.
But it's not related to these legal fees.
But in other words, who first engaged Malloy?
The commission.
The commission engaged Malloy?
Did you freeze? I don't.
No, I'm just sitting here. I asked the question, and the question was, where's the evidence that the commission ever voted on a resolution engaging Mr. Malloy?
It would be in his contract that he has with the commission, but that's not related to this billing statement and the payment of this billing statement. So I think we should stay on target with what we're talking about, which is there is a billing statement that has been due for 2 years now, and it has not been paid, and there is no explanation as to why it has not been paid. So
I think that's part of the confusion, though, the back and.
But it's not, because those are two different things. So his representation of Nicole is a separate matter. And it should be very clear that that's a separate matter, and we shouldn't conflate those issues, because that's how people get confused, trying to conflate two different things. So the issue is,
I find this more confusing because here we have Mr. Malloy representing Ledger, and then he's also supposedly in her actions against the city and this commission, questioning it. And at the same time, we're saying that he's representing the commission. Now that doesn't make any
he didn't represent anyone against the commission. He was representing the commission, and then he was representing Nicole separately. But his billing statement has nothing to do with his representation of Nicole.
But Nicole's was she was not happy with the mayor. She wasn't happy with the commission.
Again, this has nothing to do, these are two different things. And it should be clear that these are two different things.
I don't think so. How can you represent both sides of the question?
Well, I think we could ask the same question about the city's attorney, who has had several cases before the commission and had cases pending before the commission at the same time that it was representing the interests of several commissioners and putting them on the commission. So if we would like to delve into that conversation, then I think that that one is probably a more pertinent conversation. And that issue has never been resolved. So we were supposed to have a meeting on that, and that has never been resolved. And I think that's a really big question of a conflict of interest, because you are arguing to put certain people on a body, and at the same time, you have matters pending before that body. That's not the issue that we have here, though. And those are two totally separate things. And I think we should stay on target, which is that his fees were not paid for work that he did for the commission. The process of approving a billing statement for the commission is that we receive it in the office, it gets reviewed in the office, it gets submitted. Once it's submitted, you have the appropriate invoice there, it's approved by me, and then payment is sent out. So what Ruby was instructed to do was to have the commission vote on whether or not to process a payment, and then it would be approved. That's not the process that's utilized. There is no legal authority for that. There is no precedent for that. There is no explanation on why that is being recommended for the commission in this matter, because that's not something that the commission does. We don't process any other invoices that way. And if it were truly not a legal purpose, then how in the world would the commission be allowed to vote on it and approve it?
Okay, well, I know you said that Malloy already provided proof that this was all, valid, items on the invoice. Can we just try to do it again with Mallory?
He's already done that.
With Mallory?
Yes, we okay. We just went over that, and we're 40 minutes in now. So.
Yeah, but I don't know how long ago was that. I don't know if, this invoice has been there for a very long time.
May I suggest that we just take Etheleen's recommendation about, because no one seated on the commission today was present for any of this. So this is what we don't know what that invoice was all about. Etheleen's recommendation that a letter come out from the commission asking Mallory Merritt to submit an explanation of how that was arrived at, how the decision was arrived at, that's for private purposes. Just to say, and it just can't say it appears. Michael Guster is absolutely right about that. Just can't say it appears that way. But if we're going to drop those fees, there has to be more than appears. There has to be justification for dropping those fees. And Mallory has this. So let's just ask Mallory to supply the justification for it and move on, because we're going around in circles here. We're going around in circles. This is because we need to get that information from somebody, whether it's from a lawyer, from Mallory Merritt. But let's just say, okay, Mallory Merritt, give us this information which led you to this decision.
So Rabbi Carpet and I met regarding the policing reforms letter that we were going to send. The commission had agreed to it last month at the meeting. And then after that, there was a vote taken by council on an MOU for school resource officers, or SROs, at the schools. And the council voted in favor of that, 9-1. Alderman Peacock was the only no vote. And even when he voted no, someone had a retort to that, as if they were incredulous that he had voted no. And there were some statements made to the Quad City Times, and I don't remember exactly what they were, but it kind of intimated that council felt that they had taken enough steps to address the concerns that were raised, and that there were no actions to be taken on the recommendations from the commission. And so we thought through organizations that we could possibly collaborate with to also call for support of the reforms. And one of the things that we wanted to do is find a mission statement of sorts to kind of support the things that the commission was asking for, to say this is not something arbitrary that we've just come up with. This is something that is proven and supported by evidence. And so we found a policy statement from the American Public Health Association, and it was issued November 13th, 2018. And it addresses the physical and psychological violence by police, and addressed it as a public health issue. So we were recommending just using that as the statement to support, to send out to other organizations to ask them to join on to the commission's recommendations. So one of their first recommendation was to eliminate policies and practices that facilitate disproportionate violence against specific populations. And that included laws criminalizing these populations. And so that one went along with the recommendation for concerning school resource officers, the recommendation for pretrial release programs, the recommendation for decriminalization of low-level offenses, the recommendation concerning modeling an unbiased policing ordinance like the one that they have in Des Moines. The second one was to institute robust law enforcement accountability measures. That one supported the recommendation for a responsive and safe system for filing of complaints. The third recommendation was to increase the investment in promoting racial and economic equity to address social determinants of health. That one went along with the recommendation for the reallocation of police and city funding. And Jeff, you don't have to try to jot all this down. I'll send it to you, so you're not like usually writing.
Thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
The fourth one was to implement community-based alternatives to addressing harms and preventing trauma, which is something that staff has been working on with different outreach initiatives. And then the fifth one was to work with public health officials to comprehensively document law enforcement contact violence and injuries. And that one, again, went towards supporting the recommendation concerning modeling an unbiased policing ordinance, like the one that they have in Des Moines. Rabbi Carp, did you have anything to add to that part of it? Or do you want to wait until we get to that on the agenda?
Well, we can wait till we get on the agenda, but yeah, in reference to that article on April 23rd, after the city council meeting. I mean, the headline of the article was Davenport City Council cool to furthering policing reforms. And that attitude was definitely reflected in the quotes of several of the members of the council, including the mayor, who feel, with the general sense that that they've done everything that needs to be done, and that there's nothing new, that there's nothing else to address as far as they're concerned when it comes to policing reforms. And so then when we talk on the agenda about it, we thought, well, I want us to discuss possible or alternative ways of approaching this, because the original plan of trying to arrange for 3 commission members and 3 city council members to sit down and hammer this stuff out so that it becomes workable proposals for ordinances that can be acted upon by the city council. I think that that's dead in the water. If the attitudes as expressed in that article hold, and they seem to hold. So we need to go a different route.
I attended the League of Civil and Human Rights Commission meeting. We're still working on developing a collaborative outreach initiative for throughout the state. Talking to local governments and local government entities to see if we can do a statewide equity initiative where we provide a training and information sharing about what other cities and municipalities are doing to address equity within their institution. I think I have one on here that needs to be deleted, number 11. I think that's kind of all we have. We should move on because we have a few things. Oh, and we didn't have any cases that settled in mediation, and there were no right to sue letters issued. I do want to mention the case number that's listed on the agenda. The complainant in that case wanted to speak to the commission before the vote on whether or not to take it to public hearing. And she contacted the office, and I told her that it was okay for her to speak. So I think that she is on the Zoom. But that's all I have for the director's report.
She's here today to speak to us.
Yes. So I guess we need a motion to approve the director's report. I don't know if Ruby is muted or.
Look at me, I'm talking and then, sorry, I was muted. I was like, why is it? Okay, so we need a motion to approve the director's report in the case that.
I second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? All right, so the director's report for the month of April is approved. And then we move on to new business. That is, I believe.
Let me unmute.
Hello, Latrice.
Yes.
Can you hear us? This is Julie Claus, Tammy Nichol's power of attorney with one of the cases reviewed. Just let us know when it's your time to talk, and if there's any questions, the staff or the members could do that.
We're at that stage for the case, so you can.
But I was wondering.
Yeah. You can
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Okay, thank you. This is Tammy Newcomb, and this is the lady with the case that she reviewed for John Deere. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi there. Can you guys see me?
Only a name.
See? No. No.
We can hear you though.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Tammy Newcomb.
All right, Ms. Newcomb, you wanted to tell us about your case?
Yes, I do. From the very beginning of this accident, I was treated poorly by many people. And I don't know how it's written up down there. Can you guys read it to me? And I can answer questions as we go.
Ms.
We don't have
Newcomb,
that.
why don't I go over just a brief overview of the case? So what we do is it's just the kind of a 30,000 foot view where where I would just explain kind of what the facts of the case were. And then if you want to elaborate on that, you can, but because it's a public meeting, we don't go into a lot of detail or give names or anything. But if you want to elaborate on anything, you can. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Ms. Newcomb filed an employment discrimination case alleging disability discrimination, sex discrimination, and retaliation. She alleges she was discriminated on the basis of disability, both from disparate treatment and through a failure to accommodate, and that there was sex discrimination in that female employees were treated differently than male employees. And after she submitted a complaint about the discrimination, she was retaliated against in the form of being, I believe, taken off work. That was the adverse action. So, Ms. Newcomb, if you wanted to give additional details about that, or
No, that's fine. If anybody has questions, I would be happy to answer them.
okay. If you wanted to say anything further, you can.
You said.
Okay.
Director, what was the last thing you said?
She was retaliated against after submitting a complaint about the discrimination.
Okay.
Ms. Newcomb, if you wanted to say anything to the commission before I give my recommendation of whether or not to take it to public hearing and they vote on it, you can.
Okay. There was several times, but the very first time that I didn't understand was they when I come back from having my fusion in 2013, they I don't know what I'm trying to say, guys. I'm sorry. I'm having a really bad day.
You're fine, Ms. Newcomb, it's fine.
Can you answer for me, Julie?
So basically, I worked next to Miss Newcomb, and I've been on the UAW Civil Rights Committee for 6 years now, and I've seen a lot of the ill will treatment that she was followed by just about every member of Human Resources. watch when she went outside. She was given additional work to do that was confidential and made her uncomfortable doing. So she requested, and I helped her put in the request to sign a waiver so that she was not responsible for any adverse reaction, from the company to her with her situation. She was brought back on light duty. She was taken into medical for numerous unplanned meetings or hearings because of the way that they treated her in there. The nurse had charges against her as well for, anyone who goes into that office. Basically, nothing happens at that place, in that factory. When you get hurt, they send you to your own doctor instead of taking responsibility for anything that happens injury-wise in that factory, unless it's a blatant injury that's obvious to them they can't get out of. And I'm sorry, but I'm under the weather myself because I've got a little bit acute bronchitis going on, and I just had negative test results. So we're all a little bit under the weather, and so if you can't hear me or us at all, you just let us know. I just want to get to the point that I ended up accepting her request to be her power of attorney because of the different adverse reactions that I seen her go through. And it wasn't just on the company side, it was also on the union side. The union and the company have been working together for quite some time because they're both under litigation. And so they avoid filing grievances, and they avoid, they actually allow a lot of discipline action to go on there because of trying to get both of themselves out of lawsuits. So we're basically at the mercy of the Danforth Civil Rights, the court systems, and our state agencies have been our only route of salvation, really, inside those walls. I myself have been recently terminated, and I believe it's been because of this help that I've supplied Ms. Newcomb as well. So it's ongoing, and we're trying to stop it as best we can with resources that we have. So I appreciate you listening to us today and taking into account everything that Latrice has given you, and that she's reviewed, as well as what we've submitted. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, my name's Judy Herman. I am an attorney for John Deere. Am I allowed to make a statement as well? I didn't realize Ms. Newcomb was going to be allowed to do that. So Deere has a very different view, as most litigants do. People experience things differently. We submitted a very detailed position statement to the Civil Rights Commission explaining the different accommodations. Ms. Newcomb did have job restrictions, work restrictions, and Deere was able to accommodate those restrictions, brought her back to work. Then further restrictions were issued, and Deere was also able to accommodate those further restrictions. And then there came a point in time, Ms. Newcomb, I think it was pretty clear she didn't want to be at work at that time. I believe one of the issues that happened, she said she was outside at, I believe, a picnic table, and said that she was having a medical emergency, and the Deere team, and you follow their processes for a medical emergency. When asked her what the emergency was, and she said she was out of her cream, some kind of skin cream. And I believe after several instances of that nature, then she did go off of work, but that was not a retaliation issue at all. And I believe she's currently on Social Security disability and was never able to return to work. So I don't think that that's an appropriate characterization of her departure from work.
May I speak on that, Judy? From
I'm not my process, so I'm sure you can.
Okay. Latrice, may I speak?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The incidents that she's talking about put me in horrible positions that I should not have been in. I was out on the company floor on narcotics, and I could barely think half the time. And I'm not supposed to be in the heat or the sun very long with my gabapentin. And I take 2,700 milligrams of gabapentin a day. And they put me back in the tool crib, the hottest spot ever. And that's where they had me work. And they tried to start me out working on a doctor chair with no back, knowing that I have a bad back. It's situations like that that was stressing me out to the point I don't know. I'm beyond myself because I don't know how people treat people like that. And I asked for a fan, and some guy, I don't even know who he was, you'd have to ask that. He brought me a fan, and it had so much dust and everything on the inside. And I said, could we please clean that before you turn it on? He said, do you want a damn fan or not? So I guess I wanted a dirty fan. And that's what I got, guys. Kept my mouth shut. Because I knew that Zach was recording me out on my job.
So I would just clarify that I believe the last position that you had, it was a desk job. They gave you a printer, your own personal printer, so you didn't have to get up and walk to the printer. You purchased a special desk chair, special desk chair pad that I believe cost $700. They were paying for a cab to come and get you and bring you to and from work. I mean, there were a lot of things done to accommodate you so that you could successfully work.
And you know what? A lot of them things that they thought they were accommodating me with were really hurting me. I was riding with the man in the taxi that was sexually perverted. And as soon as I got home, I called Lucky Cab and I talked to the owner. And I told her, I said, don't ever send Bob to my house again. I can't remember if his name was Bob or John.
They had several complaints against the same taxi driver with multiple employees verbally harassing them. They also had pictures of a seatbelt in this same cab, picked her up, that was unsafe because it was ripped. And they never fixed it either.
They made me get in the back of the taxi in a van that didn't have a foot thing on it. I had a hell of a time getting in. And when I got let off at work, getting out was the most embarrassing thing I could do in front of my fellow brothers and sisters. So I don't want to talk about excuses for the lies that they have told, because you know what? I was sitting at home eating dinner one night and my phone rang. And do you know who it was? It was OSHA. They called me, Charles Avery. And he said, it sounds like you need help. He said, I've had several calls in here about you. And during this time that they gave me that desk job, I was going through withdrawals from a medicine that is 75 times powerful than morphine. And you can look that up. I was on 75s every 4 hours, Nucenta. And Zach still made me come to work He wanted me there 8 hours. I was so freaking sick, I could barely be there 5 hours. I had to force myself to behave because I was so fucking sick, going through withdrawals. So don't tell me the whole story's been told, because it hasn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newcomb.
So I have one thing to add on the cab issue. Actually, John Deere received a call from the cab company.
Ms. Herman, can
complaining
we,
about Ms. Newcomb.
Ms. Herman, can we, I think it's probably time for us to move forward, because this is not an opportunity for the commission to kind of fact find and reach a determination in that manner. So I think we should probably move on. Did you want to make something final that's not kind of a retort to that? The commission is not determining facts here in this meeting. Ms. Herman.
I'm sorry, what do you want me to answer?
I said, did you want to say something to finish that off that is not kind of a retort to what Ms. Newcomb said? The commission isn't fact finding today.
Right. I was
just
responding to issues that were brought up. I just wanted to make sure that both sides were properly represented. And I guess I would just say, to me, it's obviously not my decision. It's public money, public resources that you all are using. This is someone who has 0 lost wages, she's been off work since 2017, essentially, and is still on John Deere health insurance, has not lost any benefits. So to me, it's not a good matter to choose to spend your resources on. That's our perspective. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. I appreciate it.
Okay. So we can move on.
All right.
What is your recommendation, Latrice?
I would recommend that we don't take this case to public hearing. I think that it would probably be better handled by EEOC, both because of the federal funding that's involved, and I think that there's a conflict of interest that probably exists between the law firm that's representing the city bringing another case before the commission.
Okay. So we should vote on that.
So I move based upon the director's statement that we do not take this here case and that it goes to the EEOC, that we do not review it here at this level.
I second the motion.
All right. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay. So the commission voted to not take this specific case to public hearing. So now we can move on to the ALJ duties.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review those?
Did everybody get a chance to review that?
I scanned them. I'm somewhat familiar.
Yes. Is all. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we think that that is a sufficient framework to use to develop the list?
I think so. I don't know what everybody else say.
I think so.
I just had a question. Do we know whether other commissions use a 10-year experience as a guideline? Is that kind of standard, would you say?
1, 5, 2, 5.
Is someone not muted? Something.
At least 10 years.
Yeah, what I did was I went and looked through other ALJ job descriptions on the federal level. And so I went through and combined those together to develop this.
Did that answer your inquiry, Janelle?
Well, so when you say on the federal level, you mean that like Des Moines and Dubuque and some of the other cities that they would require about 10 years of experience with federal litigation or federal civil rights work? Is that?
So the federal agencies that are like our counterparts, like HUD, EEOC, maybe like Department of Labor, they have hearing officers that they use, whereas most local commissions, I think, probably have their own internal procedure. Like ours just says that we need someone who is a licensed attorney to preside over the hearing. And so what we discussed, I think 2 or 3 months ago, was to look over other, what other ALJ's job duties are and kind of the experience required. And that's what we were going to use to develop a list. And so that's what I did here.
I just have a practical question. The list is quite of applications is quite extensive. I mean, it's and I'm just wondering whether or not we can actually find people to serve as ALJs who meet all these qualifications.
I think so. I think it probably looks longer than it actually is. So the A is, you're going to be one or more of those. And then B is, that's kind of normal experience for an attorney doing litigation. So I don't think it's prohibitive. Probably the most prohibitive thing would be someone working with diverse populations and having that understanding of bias, discrimination, and harassment in their interactions with, people coming before them. But the other stuff is just kind of normal litigation experience.
I'm supportive.
This is just so we can have that list that we can pick from whenever we need somebody specific for a case, right?
Yeah, what we were doing was allowing the people to submit applications, and then that list and the requisite qualifications can come back to the commission to vote to have these people on the list. And then it would probably be handled in a way similar to the way we do our mediations, which is we send information out to say, is anybody available to handle this? And then depending on their schedule, figure out who's available.
Right. So we can have like a pool that we can pick from.
Yes, it's a list that the commission would have. It would vote on it.
Okay. So is everybody okay with these qualifications? Do we have to approve this? That we're going to,
I move that we approve this.
I second.
all right.
Second, okay.
So the ALJ duties that we have here is approved, and we're going to adopt. Everybody in favor, say, oh, sorry, what?
Go ahead.
Oh, everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay, so the ALJ duties are adopted by the commission. All right, then we move forward. Commissioner conduct.
So this was the item that I asked to be added to the agenda at the end of the last meeting regarding interactions with staff. Rabbi Carpenter had talked about it offline, and he asked that I not go into kind of super specifics. So I won't go too deep into it, but I will ask that there be a very clear understanding that hold on, the dog is trying to kill the UPS person. That we have kind of a clear perspective and understanding that of conduct and the way that we interact with one another, specifically like failing to follow through. Like if I contact someone, I expect a response, and kind of dismissiveness or hostility. So I will leave it at that as far as the depth of that conversation.
I've been on the subcommittee with the drafting the administrative rules and going over that, and it says very clearly in those the expected, the required attitudes and languages and things that we should, how we should present ourselves. So, and how at the beginning we were to take, let's see what that's called. We're to take an oath, and and I just want us to see us sticking closely to those. We have input coming from outside at times, indicating that or not being in favor or supportive. So we really need to make sure that we stick together and we are supportive and we are respectful. I actually looked through the rules and saw the frequency and the itemization of words like respectful and positive working and constructive and ethical, and so I think it says says a lot of that in our rules, in our draft administrative rules.
I would just further state we ought to conduct ourselves in the manner that we want to. We ought to respect individuals in the way that we want to be respected. And if we can do that, we can definitely have a much better dialogue, communications, and collaboration in terms of our mission and what we need to do and execute it in a better manner. So it is in her that we conduct ourselves in a manner that's professional and that one that notes the fact that everybody deserves the same level of respect regardless of where they are.
Any other comments? I don't know. I'm sure we'd put the motion for this. No other comments? All right.
Do we need a motion?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think we need a motion for any.
Okay.
All right.
Do we have a consensus moving forward that that's what we're going to have?
I like what I heard. I think everyone said what we need to be doing, respect and acting professional and, you know, treating everyone nicely, and because we are in the public eye and they really just want us to work on civil rights problems in our community. So yes, we need to stick together and be respectful, but make sure, you know, that we are doing our jobs and responding to each other too. If we get communication, or I don't know how we want to, I know we talked about communication once, wondering whether or not we should have it all more open, you know, some of the stuff instead of just person to person. I don't know. But
I would just like to add just a couple of things. One, that we should be operating from a foundation of a positive assumption. That we have to operate from a foundation where we assume that each and every one of us is trying to do the right thing, the good thing. We may not understand how they're doing it, but that's how we explore. But our assumption is that people are working from a positive perspective. And the second thing I'd like to throw in is that if we find ourselves in a situation where we have an issue with a fellow commissioner or with the director, that we hold off on addressing it and take it to them privately and directly. We shouldn't be having public confrontations. If you think something, if you just wait, pick up the phone and say, I think we need to talk about this, and one-on-one. And only if we really can come to no resolution do we have to expand that conversation.
yes, I agree. Yeah, any differences should be between those people privately. Yes, that's correct.
But even when there's a disagreement, in fact, it can be respectfully and dealt with properly within the context of our rules.
All right. Any other comments? No? Okay. So we can move on to old business, administrative rules.
So what did we just do?
We didn't need to make any motions or anything for that, right? So we just had a discussion and
yeah.
and we're ending it, or?
We have a
I mean,
consensus.
I don't know what motion we would put forward. I mean,
No, I didn't ask for a motion. I was just wondering, what I should write down.
So commission voted. So commission voted.
I'm sorry, what was that?
No,
We
Commissioner
didn't
Weber.
vote on anything.
No.
Not sure who that is.
I think I heard a consensus and everybody kind of was, I think, in agreement about how things will be, that we will be respectful and professional and
Yes, that
that's
sounds
what I
good.
heard.
Yes.
And there were definitely some things outlined to take place if that didn't happen. And so I believe that everything has been said that needs to be said. And if it doesn't happen, then we'll deal with it in a different manner.
All right, so now we can move forward to old business. And it says administrative rules.
Who wants to lead the discussion on that, or do you all want me to?
What is the administrative rules description for?
The administrative rules that the committee worked on.
Yeah.
Oh. Do we have a draft or no?
Yes, you received a draft 2 months ago, I think.
We did. So what do we need to do with this in this section? For that,
We need to review it and approve it
oh, gotcha.
to move forward.
And I guess I need some clarification. So I think this was called like part one, or the implication was that there would be others coming. I mean, is it possible to have everything in front of us that's proposed, or is the committee saying we need you to do these piecemeal, bit by bit, or how is it gonna work?
This is the one that was edited, so I don't think that there were any proposed edits to any of the other sections.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my question. My question is,
and thought it was very inclusive of things, and it's just a matter of making sure that it's in effect.
It's ready.
I guess if we have a final draft, could we have that draft shared with everybody?
It has been shared with everyone.
We did receive a draft.
I remember now.
And I guess I had some concern that it looked to me like maybe some of the items in the proposed rules really would be perhaps more appropriately dealt with in the ordinance itself. I mean, are we thinking that there are some things that should just be in the ordinance? Like adding new categories of discrimination and adding harassment and looking at how commissioners are selected and nominated. I mean, all that stuff. I guess I just had questions about whether the ordinance might be more appropriately.
So rules are there to explain the ordinance. So anything that's in the rules would have to have authority within the ordinance. So can you give me a specific of what you think is in the rules that?
Well, and if you could put up the rules, that would be helpful.
Well, since it's a draft document, it really wasn't to be shared.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but I mean, there was an addition of, I think, survivors of domestic violence was added. And I mean, should that just be in the ordinance as a protected class?
Well, I think when we started working, we said we couldn't change this, but what we could do, we could add to its descriptiveness. We couldn't add new items to it, but we could clarify and make things more clear.
Well, and I, like I say, I just had a question about whether the commission in these rules would be adding categories that aren't in the ordinance. I mean, am I wrong?
There are no additional protected classes being added. Because
was there an allusion to survivors of domestic abuse?
But that's included anyway under women, and especially under Violence Against Women's Act. But where do you see that?
Well, I don't have the draft in front of me. Like I said, if you could put it up on the screen, I could point you to what I'm talking about. But I didn't print it out. I'm sorry. It was very lengthy.
It's 21 pages.
Okay. I don't see that as an additional protected class.
Well, I guess, I mean, I view this as, this is a very long document. It's very involved. I'm certainly not ready to vote thumbs up or thumbs down on it today. I don't know how others feel.
I think this goes back to kind of what we just voted on, and the willingness to ensure that you're following up. So this was sent out over a month ago, and the expectation was that it was going to be reviewed. And so when we send things out, it is imperative that they are reviewed by the commissioners and that it's read through, because that's what you're doing on behalf of the public, and the public is expecting for that to be done and for that due diligence to be there. So I don't see any reference to domestic violence as a protected class. And so it's like,
can you find in the document where that language is found, and read to me what it says about survivors of domestic violence?
It's explaining what that means. So if it's used in a decision or in a statement by the commission, this is what it means. But that's not adding a protected class. And it's citing back to Iowa code, so it's not like the commission is not developing a definition for something.
And I guess I also had a question about how commissioners would be selected, how applications would be reviewed by the commission before they would go to the mayor, which it's my understanding that that's not how it's done now. I mean, do people feel that that is a change in the way the ordinance now provides that the process go, or is this a change?
The mayor
the ordinance doesn't currently articulate how that happens, but historically that has been the way that it has always worked.
Well, I think the ordinance says that the mayor, I forget the language, nominates and the council approves. Is that?
And I don't think that what's written in here is a change from that.
Well, the way I read the proposed rules, the commission would review applications and could reject some applications and would only forward to the mayor those that the commission approved. Is that correct?
The commission would review applications to determine if people have a conflict or otherwise shouldn't be serving on the commission, and then give that recommendation to the mayor. And that's historically how the process has always worked.
So the commission will.
The process has always worked that way. It wasn't until The mayor wanted to influence a case outcome for one of his political donors that the process suddenly changed. But throughout my tenure and the previous director's tenure, that's how the process works. Because our cases are confidential, the mayor would have no way of knowing whether or not someone has a conflict of interest, but the commission staff would. And so that is usually sent down to say, hey, this person is interested. Is there, do you see any sort of conflict or reason why they shouldn't be serving, yay or nay? And then the mayor would move forward with what they were doing. So that's historically how the process has worked.
So given this was sent like over a month ago, and I vaguely remember what's in there, I will have to review it again. Just like what Janelle said, I'm not ready.
Okay, and I would reiterate, this is what we just were discussing because we talked about it last month at the meeting and it was clear that we were going to have a discussion on it this month. And so when we send something out, it's really important to read the documents and make sure that there's an understanding of it. And that when we get to the meeting, we're ready to have a discussion on it.
Well, again, if we're going to have a discussion on it, it's helpful to have it at the meeting so that we can look at the precise language. And I don't think we have that today.
Well, you do have it because you received it over a month ago. It's not a public document because it's a draft. So if we're showing it publicly in the meeting on the screen, then it becomes a public document. So that's why it was sent out to you all to review, so that if you had comments or suggestions, you could point to a direct page and a line number and everyone else would know what you were talking about.
Well, I guess I will go print this out if people want to. If people want to discuss this now, I will go print it out and be right back. Is that what we're saying?
It sounds like nobody has read it. So other than the people who were a part of the committee. So is the consensus?
Oh, I have read it. I just don't have it printed out.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, last meeting we tabled these just because we were short on time. Mm-hmm. And so we tabled them just for lack of time to discuss it because we thought it was too important, to not. So I'm just saying last meeting they were tabled. So are we gonna table them again or what's?
I would like to see us schedule a special meeting just for this. This is a long document. It needs to have serious discussion and which needs more than one slot on a busy agenda. It needs to be the agenda of that's my opinion.
And I didn't see anything in the proposed rules that dealt with what a quorum would be. I didn't see that in there. Does anybody on the committee, is that in there?
There wasn't a number there, just said it just indicated, the majority, but it didn't say, a number like 4 or 5. It didn't say that.
So I don't know. We've had issues with that before, so maybe that it will be helpful to have a number there.
Well, that would be something that
4 out of 7 is 4 out of 7 is majority. So that 4 or 5.
That would be something that would be an ordinance change, not something that's defined in the administrative rules.
So what is in the ordinance right now?
It doesn't say. It's silent.
Okay.
Except for when there's a discussion of going into closed session, and then it says 5 out of 7.
Well, I would think as long as we've gone without something in the ordinance that says what a quorum is, that we should ask the city council to change the ordinance, and we should tell them what we think the change should be. And if we think I think it would need to be, 4 when there's 7, or maybe, there will be times maybe when there are only 6 commissioners. So do we want to, that all needs to be provided for. But I would think we would ask the city council to amend the ordinance to provide for a quorum for us. It needs to happen.
Iowa Code 17A, which is the Administrative Procedures Act, is for state agencies and commissions, but when we are conducting business, we're supposed to comply with it. That says if the ordinance is silent about a quorum, then you need 2/3. I think if we are asking council to make amendments to the ordinance, that's probably a much larger discussion.
I agree.
That needs much more discussion than the administrative rules, which I thought were a priority.
Well, I agree with Rabbi Karp. I think this is important. Obviously, a lot of work went into this, and it certainly deserves, the consideration that a special meeting would give it. So I would agree with that.
Okay. Does everybody agree? Do we want to look at our calendars?
I think first of all, we have to agree on whether or not we want to hold a special meeting. And then look at them.
I would move that we schedule a special meeting to consider and discuss the proposed administrative rules that have been sent to us.
I would second that.
Does everybody agree on having a special meeting to discuss administrative rules? Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? All right. So should we look at dates?
Okay, I'll have to get my calendar. I don't have it with me here.
Have a date, guys?
How about sometimes next week? That too soon?
Day, time.
Is Jeff checking his calendar?
Yeah, I'm looking to, I think the only day I can't is Wednesday, I believe.
What date is Wednesday?
The 19th.
Oh,
That's the only day I can't. Otherwise, like I could do, are we doing noon still? Or do you want to do it a little earlier?
Seems like we have some precedent for doing Thursdays around noon. Is that, do people find that to be a generally acceptable time?
Yes.
Thursday.
So the 20th or the 27th? Does either of those work?
Only the,
The 27th is out for me. I'm not available on the 27th.
yeah, I'm not either. The 27th will be out of town.
How about the 25th? Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out of town then too. We're leaving on the 25th and coming back on the 28th.
My Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Fridays are always booked.
So what about Thursday, the 20th?
That's good for me.
I can do the 20th, but not the 27th.
Yeah.
Does that work for people?
That works for me.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
And since it might be kind of,
So the 20th at, are we gonna do 11 or noon or?
Hang on.
what about 11? That way, if it runs a bit long, I don't know. I could do it at 11 or noon.
I'm not available until 11:30.
Well, 11:30 is fine with me too.
Because I have a 10:30 meeting that day.
11:30 works for me.
Good.
Everybody else?
Yes.
Is that okay with everybody?
Rich, is that good with you?
It's certainly okay with me, but you know, as someone who has to schedule meetings, I find regularity a good thing, and therefore I would hope that we could just, since we seem to have special meetings from time to time, find a day and a time that's that's a good time for us, so that it's easier for me if I can keep a time out there available on a consistent basis. And in a case like this, if you said, well, from now on, if we're going to do these a special meeting, it's going to be on a Thursday at noon, I'd say, fine, I can work around that. But the tough part is when we're trying to juggle schedules all the time. But having said that, Thursday is fine. I would simply say, let's just do it at noon and take it from there. But if you do it at 11:30, I can handle that too.
Okay. So we're good, 11:30 or 12? Earlier?
I just think 11:30 gets us, you know, we won't be so late in the afternoon if it takes a while. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually a day off for me, so yeah, I'd rather get it done.
Sorry.
But that's okay. No,
Thank you. Thank you.
But it's still open for me right now. So
Rabbi Carp, how about you?
think he's there anymore.
Ah,
Oh,
Uh-oh.
okay. So 11:30, Thursday, May 20th.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna get on the wagon with Richard, guys, and I'm gonna say that there's really no reason for this here meeting that we're having now, and I don't mean to be ungrateful for people's time or what we're doing, but I'm too. I have a pretty busy schedule and other things, and I try to schedule days that I'm not doing anything, and I have things that I need to do other than be in a meeting. And so if we can, if we say we're gonna do something in one meeting, the next meeting, then we ought to come prepared to do that, guys. And that way, that's another way we are being respectful of people's time and effort and things of this nature and stuff. And so we can be prepared if it's something that we might want to remind each other about. That could be helpful as well and stuff. So, but it certainly helps us in a more professional and manner and taking care of the business of this commission. Thanks.
So it's scheduled. We now move forward to policing reforms proposal follow-up. And then Rabbi Karp's gone. He follow-up to.
He messaged me and said that his Zoom froze, so he's gonna have to reboot his computer and rejoin. But I think I won't speak for him, but I think that the majority of that conversation is whether we want to adopt that American Public Health Association policy statement and use that as kind of the larger issue statement that we are going to use to ask other entities and agencies to join with us on asking for policing reforms in Davenport.
is that something that can be read to us? Is it short enough to do that or provide it to us?
I'll bring it up on the screen, but I read it at the beginning of the meeting during the director's report.
Did you read it in its entirety?
I read the abstract portion of it and their recommendations.
It's pretty long. I'm a member of the policy committee in APHA.
Oh, there it is. And then I'll bring it up on the screen here.
I'm back.
You're back.
I got frozen. My computer froze.
Sorry.
So,
We are on the policing reforms, and Latrice is going to share the abstract of, there you go.
before can you just give me what we decided upon for the date for the special meeting?
Oh yeah, sorry, you were gone. So it will be May 20th at 11:30. Maybe we should ask you, are you open at that time?
Yeah, May 20th. Yeah, is one day that I am open most of the day, so that's good.
Okay. All right, and then
So is Latrice talking?
We're reviewing the,
No,
we're reviewing the this
document.
abstract of the policy statement.
Rabbi Karp, was I correct in that that was your ask here, was that they, if the commission wants to kind of adopt this as a framework for the request for people to join us in requesting policing reform?
Well, as my recollecting discussing it is to put a connection between the recommendations we made to what is in this policy. Is in the policy of the American Public Health Association, so that that we're not speaking out of the blue. That it reinforces many of the recommendations that we've made and should therefore be taken seriously. That was one aspect of what we were talking about. I thought you did an excellent job when you put together this document that you sent me, where you outlined how our recommendations fit in within 4 of the 5 policy statements from this document.
And those have been shared through the chat.
Okay.
Well, this certainly looks very good.
Oh my God, I'm talking on mute again. Okay, so Jesus. Okay, so are we trying to present this? Are we going to present this to other organizations and then ask them to partner with us to do?
Yeah, well, I think that here's my read on it. With the article by Tom Barton in the Quad City Times on April 23rd, it was really made abundantly clear by the statements made by so many of the commissioners that there is not an interest, a significant enough interest among the commissioners at this point to take a deep dive or to just seriously consider the recommendations that we made. And indeed, when they reference so much of what they have done, those are exactly the same things that the state mandated that we avoided including in our recommendations because they were already done. Things like body cameras and chokeholds. So I get to say that, well, we did body cameras and chokeholds, so therefore there's nothing left in the commission's recommendations that we need to address when those aren't even there because they'd already been addressed. So I think that our original idea of sitting down with the joint committee of commission of 3 commissioners and 3 council members of the council is a futile effort without that support. So that we need to take this from another direction and to take this from a more public direction. And that is to reach out to other organizations in the community that are also concerned about the state of policing reforms in Davenport, and that we put together that we become a coalition, that we join a coalition of other concerned organizations to address policing reforms to the city council, and we have to do it in the typical, in the more classic way, showing up at the city council meetings and at the time of public comment saying, we want to see the city council do this, do that, do the other thing. And that's the way we ought to go, and go the course of public presentation, of public pressure, to let the council know that it's not just the Davenport Civil Rights Commission, but it's a much larger representation of the community that is deeply concerned with the lack of sufficient policing reforms.
So, so building a new coalition, wouldn't it be redundant? Because the NAACP and LULAC, and then the Davenport and the Bettendorf and police departments have built this new partnership.
Go ahead, Michael, you talk about it.
No, it's not redundant. It's not redundant. I can tell you that. We have this partnership, and there's nothing wrong with moving forward with this here and getting the city council buy-in on it as well. So, I mean, I could talk. I'm going to talk offline to Rabbi Kopp anyway and stuff. And so, but I think it would be admirable if we would adopt this here as something that we're going to move forward with. I think he hit the nail on the head when he said other organizations join in with this. So the Davenport Civil Rights Commission is also asking for this here. And there is some things in here that we are doing, but to solidify it from another perspective would also carry a lot of weight as well. So,
yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you. I think just simple things like they have not done, for example, the recommendation for decriminalizing low-level offenses. Now, it's a state thing, yes, but when we included in our recommendation that they no longer arrest people for low-level offenses, particularly for marijuana, but they cite them with tickets and do basically, because what they've been doing is been So shall we say discriminatory, where for some reason, where offenders are, where marijuana uses statistics are that it's pretty even white, black, and but blacks seem to get a hell of a lot more arrests. Traffic stops, happen to arrest traffic stops and pretextual traffic stops. We address that. These are issues that need to be addressed and can be addressed by changes in policies of the police department. Creating a responsive and safe system for filing complaints. That was one of the messages that we got very loud and clear from the listening sessions and from the public forums, that people were afraid to file a complaint because they were afraid of retaliation by officers. Now, they haven't addressed that. And these are things that need to be addressed. You need to create a safe community for all of the people in Davenport. And the one where people are treated equally by the police. And that's not happening. So if we can get the organizations to back us on this and to expand it. I mean, I'm sure that other organizations want to add other items to our list of recommendations. And we need to support them in that as well. So, that's what I'm putting before you.
Okay.
We're looking for a motion here. What are we doing? Are we ready for a motion?
Unless there's more discussion.
I so move.
And I'll second.
All right. Everybody in favor of I guess moving forward and trying to build this coalition? If you're in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Anybody opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. All right. All right, so motion carries. Now we have to go to closed session.
Do we want to allow the members of the public to speak before we do closed session?
Maybe that's a nice idea.
Just want to inform you guys, we're like 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm gonna have to jump out and pick up my kids. I also have a sick kid at home that I have not fed yet. So that goes my 2 hours.
Did Ruby just step off?
Well, I will have to
Oh, there you are.
here
You
in
moved on my
5
screen.
minutes. So this is my
Yeah.
meeting of the day.
So are we moving public comment up?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to move the public comments up before you guys can go to closed session.
Yeah, and then I will pick up presiding when Ruby has to step away.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute the first person.
Okay, one person typed theirs, so.
Hello, this is Laura Rodriguez and Kim Brown here at Quad City Harm Reduction. We are members of the public with a vested interest in taking care of our participants. I'm seeing some weaponized bureaucracy and I don't like it as a member of the public. I'm seeing obstruction of the work that you were supposed to do for the public in the form of certain commissioners not doing their homework prior to coming to these meetings. It is imperative that you do your homework, that you read what is supposed to be discussed at the meeting. I know this. I do community service, I do community organizing in my spare time. I don't get paid. I don't have any prestige. Nobody gives a shit about me, but I still show up and I do my homework prior to it because I care. My heart's in it. It bums me the frick out to see somebody sit on that commission with no interest in what they are doing and no love for the community they serve. Because love looks like work. Love looks like putting your actual mind into the work you're doing and making it a priority. There's certain members of this commission that don't care, that don't make it a priority, and it's disgusting to me. Kim, did you have anything to add?
Only that if we want, you were talking about we've been going on for 2+ hours. Well, what about the community members that want to speak? We got to sit through all that nonsense. When you should have had if you've had a document for a month, you should have reviewed it. That's all I have to say. Because I'm sitting here waiting to talk and we got to keep waiting because people didn't do their jobs. We have to do our jobs or we get called out.
Yep, and we had a member of the public here that wanted to speak, that is a Black woman in the city of Davenport that has experienced discrimination, that couldn't speak because you guys went over time. You guys have no respect for the public's time and it's really disgusting.
Hi, I'd like to jump in with a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Dan.
Hi, this is Dan Audie, and I'm representing a group called Take Back. We would certainly be very interested in promoting this document that you just discussed. That's what it's all about. Thank the director, thank the commissioners for doing this very important work. With that said, I'd also echo the comments earlier that, sitting on a document and then expecting the director to read it out during the meeting, not professional, no excuses there. Just that you do important work. There's a community that's looking for you to do the work, be the leader. It's not always pleasant. And, we're out here, we're pulling for this Civil Rights Commission. You may not know it, but there's a large group of people that want to see this commission succeed and get those budgeted dollars so that you can do the good work of this commission. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Hi, my name is Athena Gilbrave. I apologize for not being on screen. I just wanted to jump in as well. And your last item to this on discussion in regards to building the coalition, I think it's a fine idea. I would only caution, just as somebody who has been asking of the city council to do the things that you are, I guess, stating for the last year, I would only ask that you respect the fact that we have been doing that for a year. A lot of our activist work gets shoved underneath the rug, underneath the table, and I would say that the city council kind of takes on an attitude like they don't have to listen to us. But then when these bigger coalitions come in, then all of a sudden they're paying attention. And the thing is individual activists, they are regular human beings. They are people who, again, we're not paid to do this. This is what we do on the side for the safety of our community, for the safety of our children, for the safety of your children. We're not assigned to these commissions. This is something that we're doing from the bottom of our hearts. And I think it's imperative that you guys understand, especially being a civil rights commission, that you can't always come in and be what we use the term called white saviorism. And I know that not everyone on the Civil Rights Commission is white. However, it's kind of the same thing. The city council doesn't need a coalition, I would say, to come in and tell them that they haven't fixed police reform or they haven't actually addressed police reform. They don't need giant groups from the community who not always speaks for everyone. We still have a really, I think the disability community is very much underrepresented here in Davenport. They don't really have their own group to speak for them. And so I just want to caution that maybe it looks like you're doing a disservice to individual activism or groups when you kind of come in and do the savior of the day. So I would suggest finding out who those activists are within your community and getting them to stand or actually stand next to them, because they're the ones who are actually putting everything on the line. They're the ones who get their lives, their jobs, their children threatened all the time. You guys as a bigger coalition, you kind of have that safe space to, you know, kind of surround you. So again, so I would just, yeah, if you could please just respect the fact that there have been a lot of people working on this before you guys decided this today. I'd certainly appreciate it as an activist myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Nobody else from the public. The next, we can move on with the closed session. Then I'm gonna jump off. Patrice, are
if you're not participating in closed session, I guess you can go ahead and jump off.
Yeah,
Let me figure out.
yeah, I was just asking if you're gonna send like a invite to everybody else. So
Go into the room.
Let's see. We have to do the read the portion to go into closed session. Jeff, do you have that?
Not right in front of me here. I'm not even in the right room for that one.
I sent it in the chat.
Oh, did you? Okay. Let's see. Well, there's a file there, and let's see. I don't know which way it wants me to. It's like 6 different options here. Ooh, there goes everything. Let's see. Is everybody still there?
Yep, I'll send it back again.
Let's see, the way I did it, it's
I guess it's just asking for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code.
I have your
21.
I have your chat here. Now, was it official?
Okay.
And since Jeff can't find it, I ask for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.51 A to discuss potential litigation.
I so move.
Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then, Latrice, I think you have to move us into a break time.
Alrighty. So at 2:21 p.m.
2:21 p.m., yes.
I think we might have lost Ethelene.
Yeah, I think we did lose.
Haven't seen her, yeah.
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Are you under the Willeen Owens?
Yes. Mine wasn't working right, so I had my daughter come in.
Okay. Now, who's seconded to go into a closed here?
I second it.
Okay.
Or it was Janelle.
Janelle.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did everyone get the invite?
Oh. So click on arrive.
I don't see anything.
I don't see it.
I don't see
it either.
But you gotta take the,
Yeah, I think you got to take the.
I see it now.
Here we go.
I see
I
it
just
now.
got it.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, what have I done? I lost it. Let me try and get it. Hold on. Try to get that in my phone. How do I get it? She just said 4217. That's for her. Or was she talking about that?
I don't know. I thought she was talking to me.
She was talking to me, but she was talking about if we got lost or something, or we didn't. She said to go over here where they selling the tickets, where the tour. I don't know.
I don't know how to make that, resend you that request. Let's see. Ethelene, do you see a request for breakout rooms?
Wait, let me click on again. I see addressing. I don't see a request